down. So I'll be looking at those screens and actually asking you guys to show me stuff sometimes. So well, let's get started. My name is Matt Knowles, for those of you that don't know me. And this is my first class teaching the West Coast at the West Coast Contours Convention. I've been coming to the convention for, gosh, maybe 5 or 6 years. And the thing that I love most about the convention is, honestly, it's the classes. And so I figured, I've been learning so much, I've been pulling so much from this great group, it's time to give back a little. And because I think one of the first ones I went to was taught by the Davis Graveyard, so I learned how to do my tombstones from the Davises. I learned how to do corpsing from another class. I remember one a couple years ago, I learned about using a Christmas tree light controller, this Lightorama, to do Halloween decorations. So I've incorporated that. So I've taken so much from this group. I really want to give back a little bit. So one of the things I've loved about classes also is learning about the people and learning about what they're doing with their haunt, what they're doing with their business, what they're doing with their yard. So I'm a home haunter, and I'm also kind of have dual citizenship. I'm part of a group called Creatures of the Night, and also have my own home haunt called the Carriageway Cemetery. So we'll do a little introduction piece, and I'll show some of the things that we've done in both of these groups to share with you all. But then I really want to focus on driving this guest engagement idea, specifically around new technology. As people that know me, I'm a tech geek. I get into all kinds of things, and over the years, we've been applying different technologies to the haunt and to my own Carriageway Cemetery. So Creatures of the Night, this is a group of creatures, of haunters, storytellers, creators, primarily based here in West Lynn, but we started as a little group of folks doing a haunted trail down at the Mary S. Young Park. And it's really evolved into an amazing group of people that, again, you've got David Jones, who did the story class yesterday, character development. Doug is online, who's taught a lot of classes. People that they do makeup, they do community service. And so you may recognize me. I usually come to the ball with creatures in a number of costumes. So I just want to show a couple of those pictures. So if you don't recognize this face, you may recognize those faces or those whatever costumes. But as part of our haunted trail and various activities, we always seem to be looking for new ideas of how to communicate, how to reach out, and how to leverage technology. So I just wanted to share a couple of things. Even back in 2016, we did a 360-degree video. So this is kind of like virtual reality, but you can, it's just a picture that looks all around. And so real quick, I'm gonna see if this link is live. And so this is a video where you actually can look around the forest. And if you have a phone, you can put it in virtual reality and look around. And so what it was just a little promo game to have people look around in the woods, and Mary, the main character, she pops up once in a while. So it's just kind of a fun way to play with this technology. And it was just not very expensive. It was a little camera that cost, it did cost $200 at the time. So there's Mary popping out. I need to stop that video. And so, yeah, that's 4 years ago. We're doing 360 videos. Then the same year we said, well, I have this camera, we got to do a lot with it. And so we made a 360 photo booth. So this is an idea where you have your, normal photo booth, people go in, they make a pose, they take it with them. We made a 360-degree little mini environment at a fair, and people came in and they took a picture, but they were surrounded by this environment. And then afterwards, we sent them their own copy. And so this is the park where we would do a fair in the summer, an old-time fair in West Lynn to promote our wonderful haunt. And so we did this cool little setup. As you see, there are other little booths, little pop-up tents, but then we placed virtual objects so they can look at a map. This was done by Scott McMahon, an amazing graphic artist and local realtor. And here's the fair, and here's the, it's kind of like one of the Disneyland park pictures that he did. And then you can turn and then click here and go into the 360 photo. So this was a couple of guests, had some fun. We gave them props to play with. And then they're in this room. These trees may look familiar to some of you. If you remember the costume ball, I think the Davises made these. These are awesome. And there's me taking the picture, just holding it, taking a picture. So anyway, there's a couple cool little examples of how we've been using the technology even 4 years ago. And then most recently, in 2019, we decided to use a thing called virtual reality, which is, you know, when you see people with the goggles on, to do a architecturally accurate model of our haunt and planned, because this was the first year that we could do a haunt indoors. In the past, we'd been doing haunts in the woods, but this year we actually had a building, and Doug did these cool drawings. I imported them in a tool called Unreal Engine that they make video games out of. And we literally could take a camera and walk through the haunt just to get an idea of the spaces and the locations. And then finally, this year, or last year, I got into this thing called augmented reality. And we'll talk about these definitions. But these are the Facebook filters where you can project something on people's faces. You can create things appearing in their environment. And that's going to be the focus of today's class. At the Carriageway Cemetery, so this is my home haunt, and this is my new logo, so you'll see that everywhere. I'm trying to show it off. We made some nice achievements this year. We got on the news and started using the augmented reality in the yard itself. It's a static display, so it's not a walk-through haunt or anything, but we get quite a few visitors. And this year I used augmented reality, which we'll talk about. So they would hold up their camera and the camera would trigger on the sign and an octopus would jump out and blow smoke at them on the camera. So it's a way of getting people to literally interact with your haunt. And in a low-tech example, we had one of our fans, trick-or-treaters, she made her own costume based on one of our characters in the yard. Ratman, he's an animatronic guy moving around. And this was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced is this little girl came in and she's autistic, so she doesn't talk a lot and she doesn't make a lot of eye contact, but she wanted to show me that, you know, she was Rat Girl. So that was very cool. And then finally, really used this augmented reality to take the guests into the haunt. What does that mean? And it's a little hard to describe, but made this thing called a crazy coffin, where instead of having this face here, there was an iPad, and it would record video of the patrons and create these effects on their faces. About 10 seconds later, they would appear in this window, in the house, in these faces, making all these, you know, cool little expressions. So it was a way of connecting them playing around with a funny little thing on an iPad to being part inside the house. And so this was really, it was a little, you know, we had to prototype it quite a bit, and David Jones helped actually MC it. But it's a way of getting those people to interact and play with your characters. And so one thing to take the characters to the next level in the Carriageway Cemetery, it's kind of an eclectic mix of characters, but some of the things I have in there are stone babies. And by the way, don't ask me why I have any of this stuff, I just do. There are a bunch of stone babies. There's a green ghoul who makes an appearance in one way or another. And there are these little spirits as you go around. It's a big display. And I thought to myself, how can I let my patrons become these characters and interact with these characters? And so to do that, I leveraged this new technology, augmented reality. And what I would like you folks to do now is take out your phones and turn on your camera. And there's a QR code. And so most cameras are going to automatically just pop up with a link. It'll say facebook.com. And if it says, it may ask you to open it just once. So it'll take a few minutes to load perhaps. Mine, I always have to do it twice. So mine is really slow the first time. So I cancel it and I go back and I open it again. But when I do this, yeah, there you go. So it gives you some directions to shake your head, open your mouth. And as you shake your head, you start as a baby, and then you change to the ghoul. And then finally you become this weird little spirit guy. So I see some of you are trying it, so that's great. So it's a cute little example of how all of a sudden you've taken just a cell phone that everybody has, and now they're playing with your characters, right? And so in this class, you guys are going to learn how to do that. The great thing about it is it's now finally pretty easy, and the tools are all free. I mean, it's amazing. So we'll talk about the guest engagement from a high level. I think everybody understands it, but I'll just kind of go through my thoughts on it. Look at the landscape of all this technology, and then we'll literally do a lab. And I'll go through an easy example of how to put a tattoo on a face. But as you see these practical little examples, I want you to start thinking about, how could this help with my haunt? How could this help with engaging my audience? And it's a make and take. It's a virtual make and take. You will then scan it in at the end and be able to take it home. And there's a number of links and resources, because that's, again, one of the things that I've always appreciated about this conference. I always come back with all this great material and actionable things to do. And so I really appreciate the resource links that I've been provided. So I'm going to provide a whole bunch of those. So with this course, you should be able to go and create your own little AR filter. All right. So why are we doing this? The technology is cool, but why do it? So any event that you have, any whether it's a movie or a haunted house or a wedding, they're kind of these three stages to create the most impact. And one is before the event. There always has to be anticipation, right? You have to start creating this idea in people's minds of getting excited about the whatever it is. And of course, during the experience, you want to have high impact activity. You want to have a lot of fun. And then after, you want to make sure it sticks with people, right? You want to make sure it's lodged somewhere in their psyche, somewhere to where, they'll come back and stay engaged and hopefully buy more tickets in the future. So it's about making the connection and the impact throughout this before, during, and after stages. So the good way that most of us do this, right? There are a lot of traditional ways before, build that anticipation with ads, whether they be billboards or radio ads, print, web, social media. There are a lot of ways to build that anticipation. And I think most of us use those pretty well. And then during, I mean, it's all about the during, right? It's about scaring people, scare, jump, repeat, where some of us have the most fun. Just being on the other side of that drop scare and just seeing those people, that's great stuff. So it's not static, but it's kind of a recipe during the haunt. And then afterwards, exit through the gift shop, right? You want people to leave with a t-shirt or a little reminder of what they did. There's nothing wrong with this. This is all good, but how do we make it better? And so my opinion, the best engagement is really when you can personalize that anticipation part. So beforehand, how do you make them part of the story? If you guys heard David's talk the other day, he talked about this hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, 17 stages. It is their journey. It is their experience. It is their fun. So how do you personalize that even before they get there? And so I think that social tools, you can do this. You can create dialogues with people online, but with these AR filters and things, I think it's a way of being able to really personalize it to their bodies, literally. During the experience, imagine people being able to take their phone and get their own message, their own monster, their own story as they're going through a haunt, right? So you could personalize that experience of what they're getting. And then afterwards, be able to recall with you as part of the story. The greatest thing about the after, the simplest one that we have today, or you do a photo of your group with one of the characters, right? And you get to take that photo home. So imagine if you were one of the characters, or you were in a scene, or there was a video of you as part of some story itself. And so this, I think this AR and virtual reality has the potential to impact each one of these areas. And so, quick break. I've been talking a lot about all this tech, AR, VR. Does anybody know what this picture is of? And you can unmute and yell it out.
Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go, yes.
Hey.
This is one of the, give her a prize. This is where, honestly, I first experienced this thing called augmented reality on the phone. And it came out, gosh, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. All the kids, right, were running around in parks, running at each other, maybe running into cars, I don't know, looking for these little critters in their area. And so that's when AR really entered the public consciousness, I think. The reason why it's so powerful, in my opinion, is everybody's got phones and everybody loves their phones. They're stuck to them and they're not going anywhere. These things are part of social media now, and social media, as we know, influences everything. But the big factor for me personally was that the technology is now ready, and it's pretty simple and somewhat practical. You guys will be the judge after the class, though. And so, just by way of definitions, VR is virtual reality. That's where it's a 3D recreation of an environment. Okay, so it's the whole deal. You put goggles on, you get headphones, you are in a different reality. There's some names of some platforms here: Vive, Oculus, PlayStation. There's new ones as well. So those are head-mounted displays. Pretty limited, right? I mean, you have to have all this equipment. You have to be in a controlled environment, or you have to have something covering your face. You can't really get around. It's a great for total immersion, but not really for interaction. Augmented reality, AR, it's really an overlay of visual information, right? So it's something on your face, it's seeing something on the table that's really not there, and possibly even interacting with it. So your smartphone is the key. So now we've got Facebook and Instagram, both have these filters, they call them. And what's really cool is that now the tools to make them are free and readily available. And so that's what we're going to look at next. The tool we're going to be looking at is called Spark AR. This is the development platform made by Facebook, free to download and free to use. It is pretty easy to do. We'll see it in a second. But people have been able to make the most amazing interactive games, masks, environments. It's really amazing. It is only limited by creativity right now. So with that, actually, any questions before we go on? All right. We're going to start the make and take. So let me So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start the program, Spark AR. I've already downloaded it, so I'm not going to bore you guys with that. And I've got two web cameras, so I'm doing the Zoom on this web camera, and then I'm going to do the Spark AR on another web camera. So this is what the program looks like when you open it. It has ready-made demos. Not demos, but examples for you. Kind of shows what they do, right? Obviously, this one makes your eyes a funny color. This one allows you to interact with a poster and have some 3D object pop up. So there's a number of nice little demos they have. We're just going to start with a blank project. So you're going to see it as raw as it can be. So here's the interface, and you'll see a guy making a lot of funny movements. So this is essentially the screen of your phone. And so it's a live demonstration of what you're doing in the program. And they have a number of actors, so you can see how the effects work on people of different skin colors, different ethnicities, different hair, guys with beards. Or you could also use your own face so you can interact. So I'll just switch this to my own face, if I can remember which camera I said, that one. And so these are just all the web cameras that I have on the tool, on my computer here. So, then there's me. So you guys should see me in one screen and me in the other screen. Okay. So the demo we're going to do, we're just going to say, we just want to do a face tattoo because, I don't know, it's fun and easy. So to do a face tattoo, I'm going to have to shrink this screen.
And Matt, we just had one question as you're beginning.
Sure.
Is Spark AR can only be used on a desktop computer, or is it phone, or?
It's only for a laptop or desktop, not for a phone. So yeah, I think it's you gotta have a computer to actually develop it, use it. But I think I believe it's on Mac and also PC. And I've got all this running on a laptop right now. So it takes I would say a modern computer, but so don't use your 486 if anybody's that old. But certainly use something that's 2 to 3 years old, be fine. All right. And so in the layout here, you see there's kind of this virtual camera. So that's the sorry about my son, he's 17. Um, and so what we'll do here first is we'll add an object. Now there's a whole bunch of different objects you can add. We're just gonna try mesh, face mesh. And all you do is you type here and it appears and you say insert. Oh, so automatically there's something on my face. It's applied some material on my face and it moves with my face, just a checkerboard. What we want to do is we want to put a material on this face, but it tracks the face pretty well. I'm moving around, shaking around, and it's pretty accurate. But what we want to do then over here, there's the properties, and there are a lot of things here, but all we're going to do is to add a material. So we say material. Oh, now I've got some scary white mask, and it moves with my eyebrows and teeth. And if you look, let's see, it's that camera, it's that camera. You can make the eyes disappear. Now the mask blocks them, and the mouth too. And so what we want to do is to create a material that has, say, tattoos on them. So to create the material, we'll go into, I use Photoshop, but any image editing program will work that has layers. The one that's free is called GIMP. I downloaded that one as well. It works perfectly fine. I'm just not very good at using it. So I didn't want to use that for the class. So for Photoshop, you go and you download a set of face assets from the Spark AR page. And so rather than go and download it, I already have. And so you want to say, open this face masculine picture. What we're doing is, this is a picture that shows how the face, remember that weird, funny white mask we had, how it's going to map to a man's face. So when we put our tattoos, we place them here so they appropriately land on the face. That makes sense. And so to add that tattoo layer, we say new layer. And over here is where they keep the layers. And it literally is what it means. There are all these things stacked up upon each other. So for example, if I make this invisible, the face disappears. But what we want to do is we want to draw something on this face. Instead of drawing it, because I'm not the greatest artist on Photoshop, I want to just import a picture. What if we could put your logo? What if we could put an actual little picture of something? And so I'm going to open, you can see my, ignore my documents here. See if I can find these. So for example, I've got this cult symbol from Creatures of the Night. I can just drag and drop it, and there it appears in this layer. So I'm gonna kind of move it around, resize it. I think this would look cool maybe right here on the eye. It's kind of cool. So we'll apply that. Let's see what other images. This is just random stuff we have here. We could put the picture of the West Coast Hunters Convention. Oh, how about Creatures of the Night logo? Might as well. We could put that one over here. Maybe we'll twist it around, whatever. And let's find something with some color. I think I had a Fearlandia logo somewhere. There it is. Here's Fearlandia. Didn't drag it right. Just drag it over. Won't let me drag. Come on. How about Fear PDX? Oh, sorry. Forgot to click that down. Then Fearlandia. There's Fearlandia. Wow, that's big. So we'll size that. Maybe it's here. So you get the idea. You can basically put whatever you want, as long as it's in a transparent format. So it's called a PNG. You know how some things are JPEGs or bitmaps? It has to be a PNG, so the background is transparent. So this is what it should look like on the face. And then to export this material, I'm going to make that face disappear because we don't want to see that. We want to see our face. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong camera. We want to see our face underneath it. So right here, this is the template of the material, and we're going to save that as some file. And we'll call it whatever. Oh, I didn't save it as a JPEG, did I? So PNG, here it is. PNG is the file type. And I'll name it something, demo face. So it's saved. Now let's go back to Spark AR. I'm back again. Select that material. And when you select the material, there's a whole bunch of cool stuff you can do with it. We're just going to add the texture. And let's see. That looks familiar. And there it is. So as you see, these textures are now on my face, tracking with my face, tracking with my eye movements. It's doing a pretty good job. You can also change the appearance of these. There are a whole bunch of different shader types, blending, face paint. Typically, I'll just use a standard. And then if you want to play with how they look, opacity is kind of a nice one. So if you look at the opacity, kind of make it fade in and out. So it doesn't look so harsh. And there's just a bunch of different options you can play with. But right now, this is just the basic tattoo app. To get this on your phone, you plug your phone into the computer and you say test on device. It sends it to your phone. Where is it? So it sends it to your, which camera should I look at? You send it to your phone, and then now I'm playing with it on my phone. So I'm gonna do something a little strange here. I got a lot of cameras going on. I'm gonna pick this camera up so you're seeing it, and see if you can show. So there I am in it on my phone. Tracks pretty well. Okay, so let me get back. Are you guys still with me? Are you kidding me? Hold on. All right, so let's get back to the presentation piece. Did everybody see that? Do they have any questions about the application itself?
Matt, how much time did it take for you to come up with the programs that you used at Carriageway Cemetery last October?
So long time, just because, you know, I was learning it. Where am I looking here? I was learning it for the first time. The hardest thing was the smoke effect, because it was a number of interactions, right? So although there was no coding, there was no actually typing out of code, they have a programming interface that allows you to graphically connect one box with another box, just a little flow charting stuff. But what I would do is I would just look up examples. I would search for tutorials, you know, how do people do this? How do people do that? And the Spark AR page has an enormous number of excellent resources. And for example, if I just close this, let's just look at this eye color one, right? Looks simple. So I clicked on the eye color. And so this is pre-made, part of the software. And if I switch to my webcam, all of a sudden I have, and this was actually could be a good example for a haunting, right? So let's say I wanted them to be red. Now I have red eyes. So something like this is already pre-made, but something like the Carriageway Cemetery ones, I mean, it probably, you know, took me hours. You know, I'd work on it a little bit, but the hardest thing was the particles coming out of the mouth, the smoke. To make that look like fog was just a lot of tweaking. And although they have tutorials, you can take this stuff as far as you really want.
There was a question about, can you make the images move like a crawling spider?
You can. That's a great question. I made one. You can load animations into the program. You can add 3D objects. You can add animated 3D objects. And those resources are available for you. There's a site called Sketchfab. I'm going to see if I can open an example that I did a while back. And so what you're seeing, let's see. So you're going to see my folders of what I've been working on. So each one of these is a different project that I've done. And let's look at, so you see there's a number of things named experiment, because I do a lot of experiments. I think there was one with a rat that I did. If I can't find it in 2 more seconds, we'll skip, but it's pretty cool. Exploding skull, pumpkins, wasp. Cannot find it. Sorry. Anyway, I should have that ready. You can do animated crawling spiders on the face. You can make things appear if they're crawling around your head. So it has a feature called occlusion. So it'll treat your head like it's a real 3D object, right? So it won't just be something walking through you. You can also interact. So you can do tap screen to change things, to create dynamic effects. The way on the Carriageway Cemetery demo, the head shake, that is literally just a command. You just say, if head shake, then have a new picture, do something else. So it's very intuitive. It's a very intuitive interface and an intuitive program itself. And once you start playing around with it, like here's one that I'm going to open up where I created a 3D 360-degree environment of Jack Torrance as a ghost floating around you. And so this one, let's see if he'll appear. So every once in a while, something appears behind me, and it's the ghost of Jack Torrance from The Shining. For some reason, he's not showing. We may be pushing the computer limits here because every instance opens is independent. I am determined to find a cooler demo. Thank you for your patience.
Matt, while you're looking, have you found that one of the any particular platform easier to use on location than others? You've done this on iPads, you've done it on smaller tablets, you've done it on phones.
I would say I haven't seen any preference. I've done it on all the different platforms. It's just a matter of have the latest and greatest of whatever you're using. All right, here is a little one we did to promote our haunt, where it's the poster of the haunt and then combined with this kind of smoke blowing thing. So I'm wearing the poster. You see that? And in a better version, my head pops out of the poster. So you can imagine, oh, there I am. There, it caught me. So here I've got the tattoos. And also you see that the poster is kind of changing color. It's dynamic. This is done with a light. So I put a virtual light that's spinning and it changes the look of the material. And that's how you make the eyes get all dynamic. And so this is something that there was a free example that someone put on YouTube of how to do this. And I just copied it. And so you see these little spinning things? These are lights and they're moving. And so you can imagine two lights moving, creating this cool effect. And you see me changing. But really everything I've done has been copying others, doing tutorials, and let's look at a couple of those. So just to kind of review what we did, go back to the presentation. This very simple tutorial you guys could do yourself. And there's a video of somebody else doing this tutorial. I even ripped off the tutorial from somebody. It's so easy. And so I put that link in the presentation. His example is very, very quick and just goes through rapid speed. But everybody get out your phone and see if this one works, because this should be your make and take for the tattoos. And I want to see if I can see videos now. There we go. Awesome. And of course, you can take a picture and save it because it's on your phone and send it to others. Good. All right, so let's think about some project ideas. I think everybody gets the basics of the technology. If they don't, then let's talk. But the
There was a question that asked, how did you make it project on your window? And on the iPad, did you basically just leave the filter on and open it and let people walk in front and play?
Great question. I essentially used an Instagram live stream. So the iPad was doing a live stream. We had somebody supervise the iPad, right? It was a little bit behind a platform, but so we had somebody work that and say, hey, step up and play around with the filter. And so we had a little bit of a line management. And just based on the delay in the internet, I had a computer upstairs connected to a projector watching the live stream. And so it just happened that people would make their funny faces, and about 8 to 10 seconds later is when the live stream would be shown on the projector from a computer. So no fancy Wi-Fi hardwire connection, just using the tools that are available. They're free. The only limitation was that you could only live stream for 40 minutes, I think, at a time. And so I did have to run up and restart the live stream every 40 minutes. Did that answer the question? So again, these are just things that I've stumbled upon that are free and working. I'm not inventing anything here. It's just the tools that are available. And I just got lucky with that delay thing. All right, so other project ideas. We talked about this tattoo your guest with logo, could be a tagline. Let them become your characters, like in the Carriageway Cemetery filter. You could create games with your theme. There are examples of how to do games. So people can like bite things that are floating in the air. And I've never done a game, but it looks like a lot of fun. You can tap, you can interact. So you can imagine anything. I mean, I'm just thinking you could imagine like a Frogger game, or what's one where you hammer the things that pop up. Put them into your story. The one thing that I will show an example of, I think this is a great tool for line entertainment, because you can imagine having posters. So we didn't really talk about the target activation, but you can trigger on a target with the phone and have something emerge from that target. You could have pop-up messages, you could have hints, you could have clues, but you want to start telling that story in the line. And then, of course, after and in the gift shop, walk up to a picture. Imagine if you're in the gift shop and you walk up to a picture, you hold up your phone and the monster jumps out. There's all sorts of just interactive pieces. A little bubble idea. What if, you made one where you take a picture of yourself and this bubble comes up and says, oh, I can't wait to go to the next Fearlandia. Capture that image, share it with people, all kinds of fun stuff. I'm sure you guys can think of a ton of ideas. And some of them can be simple, some of them can be complex, but I think starting out simple is always the way to go. Other suggestions, of how to create that connection with them. Hopefully you guys had some success with the QR code and see how simple it is. I'm sure it didn't work for everybody, and we'll talk about some of those drawbacks, some of those limitations. Of course, it would help you drive your traffic to your social and create these shareable moments. Limitations. So far, I've been promoting the technology, hopefully demonstrated how easy it is, and it can be complex, but it's not going to make or break your haunt. This is just a very small but useful tool. So some limitations. Old cell phones. They may not work. When I say they may not work, if you take probably, I think it was like a Pixel 1 or a iPhone maybe 5, I don't think they even have the right circuitry to make this work. There's some computer chips that help accelerate this type of effect. So some old cell phones, they just won't work. And of course, flip phones won't work at all. So what's the alternative? Well, you might recommend to the guest, hey, try this. Who's got the best cell phone in the group? You want to try it with yours first. Or, hey, people may not have Facebook or Instagram accounts. I don't know if there are any people left in the world, but there still may be some people without accounts. And so if you're going to be using this, you want to communicate in your ticket communications maybe that, hey, if you have a Facebook account, you're going to have more fun. Something like that. Long loading times. This is a problem that I have seen sometimes when I download a filter for the first time, is that it takes time to load. And so this is going to depend on if you've got good Wi-Fi or if they've got good internet connectivity, right? Roaming, whatever. So you never want to use this where it's timing dependent, right? Don't use it for a quick scene. Don't use it for a quick scare. There always has to be some delay. And you're not going to be able to control what that delay is, because again, it's going to depend on the cell phone they have and connectivity and all those things. And then finally, low light. We all know that some cell phones have, cameras that are getting much better, but some don't. And in low light conditions, all this interaction, it suffers. So it's always best in a higher light, higher contrast environment. Now in a haunt, well, a lot of it's dark. So it's not something that you want to take in as part of the haunt and expect a good reaction, right? Because it's not really for that. So performance will suffer. Here's the killer app, I think, that I've thought of. I'm sure there's a lot more. But line entertainment. Everybody, there's always lines at haunts, right? I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. And what I find is I get very, very bored in lines. If I don't have a good line actor interacting with me, or if I don't have something interesting to do, like, down at in Salem with Ed's haunt, I really loved, he's got this thing in the line where a screen comes up and you're interacting with the character and you get squirted with something. So it's really cool. So you always have to have something. So imagine the line entrance, you say, hey, get out your phones. You're going to have some fun. You could do a simple QR code that loads the filter. So this gives them time to get that loading. And then a little further down, there could be a picture or a sign or, some design on the wall that they could interact with. And that's where you start setting your stage. Maybe that's where you start setting the mood with some character introduction, with some background. It could be even music. I didn't talk about it, but you can also program sounds as well. So you could do this QR code, monster could come out, roar, or one of your main characters could start saying some things. Then as you go through the line, maybe the filter then poses a question a little later. You can also build in timing mechanisms. But you could imagine a question popping up saying, do you know where to look for the green monster? Is it going to be in the swamp? I mean, I don't know, I'm making this up. I'm not the storyteller, by the way. And then by the end of the line, you could direct them to, share their answer with others, or maybe you connect it with the gatekeeper. Maybe the gatekeeper is then going to say, have you found the missing key? Are you prepared for the swamp monster? Something like that. Just an idea, but if you are going to have an environment where they have time, they have their phones, you have the opportunity to provide some well-lit areas, I think this is a good application. Now for socially distancing, I didn't really think about this till the last second, but I have heard people talking about, if and when they do a haunt, they may need to separate, right, people. And so there could be an idea where at the beginning of each scene, maybe you load something and then you're able to see it emerge from behind the glass. I don't know, but it's certainly it's a hands-off type of approach, right? But I obviously haven't put a lot of time into this one yet. And then the free resources. So not going to read through all this, of course, but the Spark AR, we saw that. GIMP is the software for doing the graphics. And then there's a whole bunch of 3D content as well available for you. You don't have to be a 3D artist. You don't have to know anything about 3D graphics. There's a site called Sketchfab that is connected to Spark AR, and you can literally just import 3D objects. You might actually take a look at that. And if you want to create VR, I recommend Unreal Engine, but they also has a product called Unity. Again, free. Download them for free and use them. It's amazing. But the reason why I was able to get started on this, and I think you will, is the resources available. There are so many tutorials. There's a Facebook AR community link and AR creator link. A couple of examples of how to share your filter. There's a nice blog I found to help you share it, and a link for QR codes. This is the video of the face tattoo tutorial for you to watch. And so in summary, I think, we all understand that guest engagement is important before, during, and after the haunt. And I really believe that this new tech, based on something everybody has, will help you get there. Definitely try the tattoo tutorial and just have fun. I mean, I've had a lot of fun with this stuff, shared it with friends, and I just wanted to get some other people hooked on it. Included other filters from Carriageway Cemetery for you to enjoy. So with that, that's all the prepared material I had. I'd be happy to go back into the tool and play around with some challenges you guys may want to see or questions. Did I lose everybody?
Everybody's just muted, but
Nope, still here.
All right.
Yep, we're still here.
This is kind of a
Good stuff.
no, that one's not a good one. So is anybody going to try this?
there is a question. Could you set up an AR target in public spaces, for instance, in different points in a mall?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All you have to do, and I will open up an example. And this is the, let's see, octopus only. So all you do is you take a picture of your target. And so in my case, zoom in here. I wanted this thing to come out of my sign. So am I zoomed in? Can you guys see the Carriageway Cemetery sign? And so you just take a picture of that. So if you're in a public space, you could take a picture of the subway sign or whatever. And then you put that in this software and that becomes the target. And this is one where I've taken an animated, I think he's an octopus. An animated octopus I had nothing to do with creating. I found it on the Sketchfab site. I imported it. And if I walk up to the Carriageway Cemetery sign, it pops out and you see it. It's pretty cool.
Matt, did you talk about using this for your exit I survived kind of thing too?
Yeah. Tell me more. What are your ideas for that?
We used it for people taking selfies in front of our exit sign last year so that they could post them on Facebook to get a little bit of extra advertising once they were done.
Right. Yeah.
Someone asks, is there other easy ways of reducing lag?
Reducing lag on the phone? Like when they're using it?
I don't know, David, you'll have to unmute and explain.
So I find that sometimes I just have to reload the thing twice. And it just, and it works really well. On this demo that you're seeing, it's going slowly just because that's actually the speed it goes. I'm trying to open the chat window.
I was asking if there are ways to reduce lag time to a projector for a more immediate.
Oh, lag to projector. I don't know. There's probably some. There's probably a Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi streaming, but I don't know if that. I'm sure that technology exists. I mean, the whole lag to projector was because we were going through an Instagram live stream.
So if you did it on a night which wasn't using so much high bandwidth like Halloween, or just did a hardline connection, or no?
No, because we were.
You'd still have to go through the app.
Yeah, we were literally going through the entire internet.
Got it.
But we also did that so other people could watch. Now, if you just wanted to have it a direct stream and minimize that lag, then you could probably just do like some sort of screen sharing just over Wi-Fi. Can you link a filter to GPS pins? Yes, you can. You can essentially use the GPS functionality of your phone. And so you could have an app only available when you get to a certain location, or you could, but I don't know if you can do a full Pokemon. That's a good question. I haven't tried that. how do you set the targets, right? Yeah, setting the target is very similar to loading the face. Like in this case, we're looking at right now, I zoom out, I've selected it, and it's called target tracker. I mean, so if I wanted to add another target tracker, I put target, there it is, fixed target tracker. And if you look at the target tracker, it has properties. And guess what's in the texture? It is the sign of the Carriageway Cemetery. And if I move it, let me see if I can move it for you. So it's literally just a picture I took with my cell phone of the Carriageway Cemetery. There it is. See? That's it. What I've done is I've done some fancy tricks. So it only triggers, it triggers on the picture, but so the octopus only comes out of that part of the picture anyway. It's an occluder thing. Because I want some smoke, and I don't want the smoke to look like it's coming out of the sign. I want it to be in front of the sign. But yeah, that's the picture. That's your target tracker.
So are we at a point where we no longer need QR codes on what our targets are, or are there limitations to what you can designate as being a target? Our, featureless wall probably won't show up, but
Exactly. So all you need is high contrast with some non-repeating detail, right? So if you just had a line of black, white, black, white, black, white, there's nothing unique there. So it's hard for it to trigger. But if you have a couple of angled lines or even right angles, as long as it's non-repeated. So for example, if I triggered only on this brick, it would probably not work very well. But the Carriageway Cemetery sign is great because it's black on gray and it has some, unique features. Good question.
There is a question about shelf life on the QR code, like set number of times or a time frame before the code expires.
I do not know the answer to that. I have not used QR codes except for this. Anybody else online? David, you're a QR code guy, aren't you?
A
No?
QR code just encodes a URL. It can point to anything a URL can point to, and then the server at that end is responsible for enforcing any restrictions.
Okay, so the same could be said about a URL. It's basically a URL. So if they don't change the URL, QR codes should work. That's what I'm hearing, right, Matt?
I would think so, yes.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, there's just, there's so many ideas. The best way is to just download and start playing around and use the demos. And if you have an idea that my whole idea is I want a fake fog machine. So that's one of the first things I did. I want to make fog. And so turns out it wasn't one of the easier things to do to make it look right, what I thought was right. And so I made a little virtual fog machine that you can download. I think that's on the list as well. Questions?
any legal, or is there any issues of places that we can't put as tracking items? So for example, maybe not City Hall, maybe not a federal judge's face, or is that even, has anyone even addressed that conversation of like, these are the don'ts?
I mean, it's not illegal to take a picture of a public anything, right? So, hey, I mean, Unless you're, I guess it would say, well, if you're drawing crowds of tens of thousands of people with your QR code, it's probably not appreciated, but I don't think you're going to have that problem. Certainly not in this environment. But no, I haven't heard any people commenting in the discussions on that.
Pokemon people got some criticism because they just automatically attached them to all sorts of famous monuments, which included things like Holocaust memorials. It was just automatically they just attached them to famous things, so that they didn't even know they were doing it, but they got yelled at for that, and eventually took some of those out.
I see.
So you'd want to keep away from anything that's supposed to be somber, I guess, or religious in aspect.
So we should exercise good taste.
That's always a good idea.
Matt, this is a little bit off topic, but you've worked on a lot of different kinds of video platforms. Have you considered doing any of this with your drone footage technology? Is there anything to do with that? Maybe to show the location of the haunt or something like that?
Ask again. Drone and.
Is there any way to sort of combine aerial footage in this sort of augmented reality, or are they two separate items right now?
I haven't really thought about that. They could be combined. I don't think, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's done that. Here's
an overhead satellite view of your haunt with your tentacles being spouted from it.
I mean, certainly you could do that, but that would be just more of a post-production thing, right? I mean, having a live flyover with things happening. Yeah. You could probably do that if you had a live video feed from your drone, but that would be something that someone would have to develop. I don't know of any tools to do that today. But here's another example I'm showing where all I did is I found exploding skull and I added it into my project. And so all you're seeing is see if I put my face on it. It's a very cool 3D animation that somebody made. And I just imported it in. Now, one thing I do encourage is when you do use a piece of collateral that someone else has generated, you should reference them. It's just, it's legal and it's also common courtesy. So for example, in my octopus filter, I do refer to that provider of content. Which brings me to another topic of how do you get these things published? And because each one of these filters does have to be reviewed by Facebook. And so what you do is you submit it, and Facebook usually takes, well, it used to be a couple of days, but it could be anywhere from 1 to 2 days to a week to review. And then they will either give you feedback, like if it violates some of their rules and regulations, kind of the basic Facebook stuff. You can't do anything that shows violence or there was some regulations about you can't insult certain people and that type of thing. But I haven't had anything rejected for those reasons. I had something rejected for some technical reasons, because sometimes you make these things. If I tried to publish this one with the skull exploding, it would probably be just too big. The file sizes just get too big and too complex. And so you have to balance some of the performance issues as well. And so you'll see if I move this to the side, this is some of the animation. They call it a patch editor. So there's no programming, but it's just like connecting wires and stuff to various boxes.
There's a couple of long questions in the chat if you want to just take a look at the last post about QR codes there in the chat, Matt.
All right, so let me close this version here and slowing these down. Say we wanted to do a series of posters that came to life, a unique video playing for each. Could we have a single QR code for guests to download the filter to play each unique poster, or would we want a unique QR associated with each poster? You would want a unique QR, well, you'd want a unique QR code because, as far as I know, and by the way, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I'm a dabbler. I think currently you can only do one target in an app, but they might have changed in one filter. They may have changed that though. They may do multiple. So good question. Safe side is do one for each, but have to look at the newest features. I like what you're thinking though. That's a cool idea. Okay.
Someone asked if you could do AR on multiple faces.
Yes, you can. All you have to do is add more face trackers. I've never done that, but yeah, if you have two faces, you just add multiple face trackers, and they both can trigger and do different things. I don't know if there's a limit to the number of faces, but you know, there's a limit to how many people you can get in that camera field of view.
In your experience, how close does somebody's
Face need to be to their phone or to a camera before the face tracker has enough information to recognize and modify them?
Good question. Really depends on light level. So in good light, like we have here, I could be probably, I don't know, 8 feet back, 10 feet back. And you can actually see that if we pull the demo out again. In low light, you're gonna have to get pretty close up. Good questions. So if we open this up again, this is the demo we just did. And we go back to webcam. You can see me, right? It's triggering, it's finding me, it's still on me. I'm moving back. I can't even see the screen anymore, so I don't even know if it's working. It seems to be working.
Yes, it is.
But literally, I can't see if it's even working anymore. Did it track?
Yeah, we can see the tattoos on your face the whole time.
Yeah, I can pick up this camera, move it around. Get too close, then it loses the features, right? So it can't see the face. That's pretty good. Oh, it went away.
Snapchat as well.
These are on Snapchat. Snapchat is really one of the originators of these filters. This tool does not work with Snapchat. So you can't use Spark AR. It's only for Facebook and Instagram. Does Snapchat have a development platform? I don't know. I haven't tried that. And yes, you can email me with questions once your blown minds return to normal. Absolutely. Let's see. Here's my email address. Hopefully you see that. Pretty simple. It's nomad@gmail.com. Now I'm very confused about what screen to look at because I have this thing going. Good question about the Snapchat. I thought about that one. Not enough to do a demo though. All right. Well, thanks for everybody's attention. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad for the interaction, and I'm glad you guys tried it because that was my really goal, to get people to have it in their hand, play around with it, and now you've got your first virtual make and take.
That was awesome, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Matt.
See you
Thank
later.
you, Matt.
Hasta la vista.